Great. So, welcome everyone. This is our first ever virtual meeting at the Senior Center, and we have intended it to be in person and virtual, but right now we just have people online, so welcome. We are the Gainesville group of the Florida End-of-Life Doula Association, and and we are just glad that everyone came today. Is that all kind of showing up on it, or is it going to be? Yeah, okay, so we'll start. I'll let you start.
Hi, my name is Lee Wilberscheid, and I've been an end-of-life doula since 2015. I moved to Gainesville in 2018. My specialties are especially vigil and then legacy work, of course, end-of-life legacy and photographs, memories, etc., legacy books, tapes, and let's see, I'm glad to be here. That's all. Glad to be here for our first meeting.
Thank you, Lee. And so my name is Shanti Vani. I've been in Gainesville since 1979, and I came out of a very difficult period of my life when I got here, and I've been really grateful to be part of this community. During the years between 2013 and 2018, I had 7 family members die, and one after another. It was really, really difficult because I didn't really have time or ability to process all of that. And but after my mom died in 2018, I went to be trained as an end-of-life doula, and I'm very glad that I did. And I think that death is not a happy topic. People don't want to talk about it. And actually, it gives me great pleasure to help prepare people for the inevitable, and also to just think and talk about our lives. You know, it's not all about gloom and doom. It's actually preparing and thinking about what's important to us. So this is our first meeting. My specialty is grief. I'm very involved in grief, and that's really my area. So I have a business called Transforming Grief, which I opened a couple of years ago, and I teach classes online, in person. I have sessions one-on-one with people, and it's been very rewarding. So what we'd like to do, we have quite a small group today, is ask anyone who'd like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Leon Couch. I've been a resident of Gainesville since 1963. I'm 82 years old. I have end-of-life documents already, but I just thought I ought to check, see if there's something that I'm not aware of. My wife passed away in 2019, 4 years ago. The end-of-life documents worked fine in that situation. So I guess that's a summary. You know, I'm just here to check and see if I'm missing something.
Thank you, Leon. Good to meet you.
Welcome.
Who else would like to introduce themselves?
I don't know if you can see me. I'm Sally Kimberly. I live in Gainesville co-housing. I'm 80 years old. And I'm curious about what an end-of-life doula does. And so I would like to hear about that.
Thanks, Sally. How about you, Anna?
My name is Anna Schwade, and I've been in Gainesville for the past 33 years. originally from South Florida. My family came here from the island of Puerto Rico. So I wanted to join the group to also become part of the community and to join in making these connections. I also serve in the community as an end-of-life doula, but my interest here was to continue this dialogue and to be able to establish connections with people at this stage in life and have them be meaningful. So I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're one of our speakers for next month.
That's right. Yes, the second Wednesday of October, Anna and William will be talking about legacy and life matters. Is there anyone else who'd like to introduce themselves? Elizabeth says, Elizabeth Rush, interested in training for end-of-life doula. Great. So I think perhaps we could start by answering that question of Sally asked about kind of what do end-of-life doulas do. Yeah, Lee, do you want to?
We have a wonderful brochure, trifold brochure here that we can get to you if you want to give us your contact information. Sally, I know I can get it to you quite easily, but the one of the sections answers that question exactly. What do doulas do? We provide non-medical and personal care. So we dovetail with medical personnel. And we support the dying person and family. We give practical, spiritual, emotional support. We listen deeply to the client and the family. We advocate for the client's wishes. We educate the people involved, assist in resource development, and give support for grief throughout. We give help with advanced care planning and directives. That's one of Anna's specialties, especially. And we help to arrange the space and do bedside vigil, and we talk about and help with arrangements for disposal of the options of that are available for disposal of the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a little bit about what was brought up about the documents. Many of us have these advanced directives. You know, it's the living will and the healthcare surrogate and the will and all of that. And it's really important to have those. However, if nobody knows what's in them or who's in them, it's pretty useless. So, you know, we advise, if I have a client, I would definitely suggest if they have those documents, let's bring those out and take a look at them. Is this person still around? Do you have a good relationship with them? Do they really know what you want, especially if it's a healthcare surrogate? Or might they be confused about it in their grief and want to do something other than what's in your documents? So a lot of it is really having open communication because, you know, it's kind of touchy and it's kind of difficult for people. And so advanced care planning goes beyond those documents. Advanced care planning involves more detail and more about, well, you know, what do you really want, like in depth, more in depth. And that also moves towards legacy. Because sometimes as we're reaching the end of our lives, we think, well, what did I really do? Or who am I? Or what am I leaving in the world behind? And I've heard a story where a doula helped a dying mother to write letters, cards and letters to her children for their graduation, each birthday, their wedding, you know, things that would happen in the future that she wasn't going to be there for. And when she could no longer write, the doula actually wrote it for her. And that was really important to that mother. I can't even imagine. I myself have lost a daughter, but I can't imagine, what it's like to be the mother dying and leaving your children when you're not at the, you're young, let's say, with cancer and something like that. So, yeah.
There may be things that you yearn to tell loved ones that are difficult to say face to face, so you may want to prepare either a document or a voice recording or a video recording that makes it easier. I had a client who prepared a notebook that was called, "I'm dead now, so what now?" And she had all of her messages and her preferences. Her family just didn't want to talk about it. They were in such denial. They said, no, it's not going to happen. And she wanted to make sure that she left all of that, and certainly it was a compelling way for her to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'd love to hear from you. We had a series of questions that we wanted to also ask of people here so that we could get to know you a little bit and get your thoughts on things. So just being as casual and relaxed as we can, we'd just like to welcome any other comments, questions. I can say a little bit about some of the benefits of doula care. Because you have your medical staff, you have your social worker, maybe your chaplain, your hospice people. We all know, many of us know about these players that are in our lives when our loved one is sick or dying. But what I found with my mother was they all have their job. They all have their place in the puzzle. The social workers, their job is to make arrangements or help people get resources and figure out things. But the doula has kind of a different place in the person's life. They are there for the really personal side of comfort, their wishes, it just goes a little closer. And maybe Anna, maybe you could say more about, I'm at a loss for words, but the place of the doula
as advocate,
the benefits.
Well, my mother-in-law was under hospice care, and they were lovely. They were wonderful as far as providing the medical care and giving us suggestions on how to make her comfortable. But what didn't happen was we didn't have anyone to talk with us about how to comfort her. She was unable to talk. She had suffered a stroke. And so we knew how to make her physically comfortable, and we knew her wishes as far as not wanting additional life support and not wanting nutrition. But we didn't have anyone to guide us as far as any further steps to take. And they were lovely people. This is not criticism. I'm just describing where the doula comes in, who could have talked to us about further things that we could do. As it turned out, she was waiting for her son to come, and we had a slideshow of her life with her children throughout their lives, and she died the next morning. She was waiting for that, but we were kind of at a loss as to what to do, and we would have benefited greatly from a doula to help us guide us, to help guide us.
Yeah, and then one thing I want to say is that we support the wishes of the dying person. So ideally, we have time ahead of time to really get to know them and what they want. Sometimes it's certain music or certain sounds, scents, you know. You might want to move the bed into the living room where there's a picture window and you can look out into the trees, or you know, just create an environment that is a little different than what they've been in. And I heard a story about you can do what we call guided imagery. So, I mean, it's sort of like a guided meditation in a way, but there was a story about a man who was quadriplegic, so he was, you know, really stuck and he couldn't move. So every evening before he went to sleep, somebody would take him on this journey down a river on a boat, and you know, he would see all the wildlife and the turtles and hear the birds, and they would guide him on this beautiful journey down the river, because that was earlier in his life, that had been an experience that was really special to him. And so, you know, we can support people in that kind of comfort if we get to know them and what their story is, you know. So let's see. So some of the questions that we had for you is, what makes you feel at ease and relaxed in your life? What are the things that you enjoy doing? Yeah, what do you love? What's fun for you? Anyone? Elizabeth says walking, massaging, and dancing. Wow. Great. So I have this thing in my grief program that I call a no regrets exercise. And you know, if we do today what we love, we won't regret that we didn't do it. Sometimes cooking is a little drudgery for me, but if I just use a little creativity and approach it differently, it can be a really fun experience. Just get some different ingredients and play with the food, take a different approach. And then another question is, what challenges do you face? Is there anything that's kind of challenging and difficult?
Back pain.
Yeah. And the thing is, when it comes to pain, working with it, so.
Working with it, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and
sticking with it to the work.
Yeah.
Being consistent about it is difficult for me.
There's Sally. I see a hand raised. Sally.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. One of my challenges, I was always fairly active and a dancer. And so I developed arthritis in my knees. And so walking is sometimes a challenge. And so I'm grateful for what I can do, for the fact that I can walk. And I think sometimes about how I used to be, you know, I used to have what they called a bedpan stride. I used to really, really walk quickly and dance while I was cooking or whatever. And now I'm doing good if I walk across the room. But I'm grateful that I can do that. But arthritis is a fact of life when you get to a certain age.
You've got the secret, though. And the secret is gratitude. I think that's one of the things that helps me through any discouragement is gratitude. And then, you had the phrase in there, I think about how I used to be. Well, I try not to do that anymore. I think about who I am now and where I am now and what I'm doing now and what I can do now, and focus on being grateful, as you say, grateful for now, this very moment, this place.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that growing older happens slowly. I have time to adjust. And also, every day I'm a day closer to the end of this particular life. So what this has all done for me is to help me think carefully about each day, and the fact that, you know, death is coming, and I can see everyone, you know, in the world dying except me. I figure I'm the one who's not going to die because I'm always in my world. I can't imagine this world without me. I can imagine it without you because you're over there. But the fact is that it could be today, could be tomorrow. I really don't know when it's going to be. And I kind of shiver when I realize that as much as I talk about all this end-of-life work, that I'm not prepared myself, that there are so many things today that I have that are unfinished, and I'm not ready, and I don't want to go. So it's just challenging. I have to live today as though I don't know if I'm going to have tomorrow, and what that ends up being is making the best situation I can in the difficult situations in my relationships. And it's really been a good lesson because I've got a lot less persnickety, anger, reactivity, and resentment towards people in my life. It's not that I won't face the challenges as they come up, and they still do come up, and they probably will, but there's a certain kind of grace or compassion that I've learned to try to give other people, and I also have to give it to myself. So, it's preparing is a lot more than just getting your paperwork done.
I agree, and I don't. Go ahead, Leon.
It seems like the discussion has gone from, like, mention was made of back pain, so physical things, to mental things like anxiety. And I think this is anxiety. We worry about the future. And for me, it helps if I just do something, some activity. And one of my hobbies is amateur radio. I do a lot of that. I'm active in my church and so forth. So, like you say, death is coming. I think we just need to do things that we don't worry about it too much. I guess it's the way I would put it. But maybe, you might have a different viewpoint.
Let me let them in. Let's see.
Sally says I do improv, and
I do too. I do it right in this room here.
it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're saying is, like, let's enjoy what we've got. Let's
Right.
Connect with other people, right? When you talk about, go to church or somewhere where there's, and this is why we called this meeting Community Connections, because it's important. Elizabeth said she has to go to work now. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Elizabeth.
Yeah, she really helped participate. Yeah,
So, what else is on your mind and heart?
I think one of the things we can do, I mean, generally, we're all retired and we have a little more time, discretionary time, I'll put it that way. And one thing is sort of for your descendants to write a history of your life. And I've done this by a timeline. So, I start back when I was born, what was going on. I happen to have been a photographer all my life, so I got pictures. And I inherited baby pictures. So, that's included with the history discussion in the timeline. And the kids, in turn, my children, encouraged me to do that. And I think it was a good activity. And I guess I try to make it so it's not boring. It moves along. So anyhow, and of course, that's the kind of thing you can make it as detailed or as brief as you want, but you can start out with just an outline to get you started.
And so is this writing that you're doing, or do you do it in some other medium?
Well, mine is a timeline. I mentioned the year and what I was doing during that time, and then maybe a picture if I have a picture to go along with that time. So I go through the years of my life and I emphasize things that really determined what happened in my life, decisions that were made or not made. A lot of events are random, and you do the best you can to make things right. So anyhow, I just thought I'd mention it.
So yeah, I mean that's sharing your life story, and no one knows it but you.
Right.
It's a wonderful project.
Yeah.
I've got a box, a big box of photographs that were dumped into it over the generations. So I'm scanning those photographs, and of the people that I know, I'm writing whatever I can to accompany each photograph with any anecdotes that I know, and I'm one of 6 children, and I've heard stories that my siblings haven't heard, and I'm trying to put together what everybody else has heard. So that's not just my legacy, but I'm glad to do it because it shows my place in the generations through the eras. I don't know if my grandchildren will be interested in that, but somebody will.
Well, I'm retired from electrical engineering at the University of Florida, so I got mine done all electronically. It's a PDF file, and I can, and I have shared it with my kids and relatives, and they, of course, give me feedback, and from time to time I'll modify that, and they encourage me to add certain things, or they say, "Dad, did that really happen?" or whatever. So, it's an interesting thing that, in my case, the timeline has been sort of a two-way dialogue and a way of interacting with my children about what's happened in my life and in their life. They remember certain things when they were younger with us, and I did not. So, they have a different perspective, which I find very interesting. Anyhow, I would encourage people to use email and electronic media to communicate with relatives and so forth that are distant. And in the modern days of technology, you can do that easily, like we're doing Zoom here. And people on Zoom could be anywhere in the world. So it's really neat.
Yeah, I think there's tricky things. sometimes I am so grateful. I have letters from when I was born in 1951, and I just found out that my dad was already in Africa when I was born, and I hadn't realized that I knew that he was when my brother was born. But, you know, just letters, you know, letters are actually kind of cool to dig up, and I don't know about the kids these days, but, you know, I've heard people say, well, I get 1,000 emails every 2 days, so don't bother to, you know, anything you want me to have, don't bother to email it. But on the other hand, Facebook might be there. I think it was Ashley Johnson that did a little, she did a TED talk on preserving your legacy through social media. And I'd like to look that up and maybe have a meeting where we could share that and talk about that, like different ways to capture your story and your legacy. I like to do a PowerPoint with pictures and words, and you can throw some video in there and then put it on, get a YouTube of it and put it on YouTube, and then it's going to be available and accessible and preserved. So we have some
letters and stuff you mentioned earlier, you can scan them and
yeah.
PowerPoint, whatever program they're using.
So I guess I'd like to build on one meeting to another, but Leon, would it be something you'd be interested in sort of presenting with us sometime, a little bit about what you've done, or just sharing in a meeting, in a Zoom meeting?
I could do that, yeah. Okay.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I could do it.
We captured you on a recording saying that you would do that, so
I would like to extend to Leon, if you're available and can join us for the October 11th group. We're going to be presenting different projects and different ways to capture the events and experiences. And it seems like you have had already some really good progress with yours. And that would be wonderful for us to hear about too.
Well, I can show you my timeline. I mean, I've got a program. I could put it here. If you got the sharing implemented, I could just put it here on Zoom. So,
yes, that would be good. It would be good to hear. You know, I know that I know someone else is going to be presenting a storyline and doing kind of that, maybe with videography, you know, including the person in the film, which is another powerful tool. But yes, it's great to hear your ideas. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's this same Zoom ID and this same time next month that Anna and William are going to be doing the legacy.
Okay.
So that's great. Yeah. So it's a little awkward being the only ones in the room here and having to try to navigate looking at you that way. I think for me it'd be easier to be in a Zoom meeting.
Well, I know other people are on this Zoom call, and I haven't heard them talking too much, so I wish they would talk. So I don't want to be the only one talking.
Oh, well.
That's good that you are.
But anyone who'd like to put their email in the chat, that would be great, because we can grab your email and add you to our little lists
And send you stuff.
And send you stuff, sure. Yeah. So, yeah. And then I just want to put in a little plug for the Florida End-of-Life Doula Association. We have what we believe to be the first statewide organization of doulas, end-of-life doulas in the country. And we like to, you know, we have educational meetings and programs for the doulas themselves, but we'd also like to, through this and in other times, reach out to the general population and get people aware of what we're doing. And everybody has a, you know, different little niche. I have experienced my mom with Alzheimer's, and going through that with her has been quite interesting. But we also have to, it's interesting because we have to kind of monitor our time and our energy and our output and pick and choose what we do. I'm finding that.
I think that's one of the most important concepts is self-care. Mm-hmm. If we don't care for ourselves, mm-hmm. we, of course, are not going to be able to give good care to the the person who needs it. And that's part of almost any doula training program, is self-care. Finding the things that nurture you, but also educating you about things that you may not know of. And meditation is one that was taught in one program that I attended, called Authentic Presence, and that's a Buddhist-based approach. So we did quite a bit of meditation as far as self-care was concerned, and I still use that every day. So there's education on new things you may not have considered, but also assessing what it is that you do to sustain yourself and to regenerate. Care for the caregiver is it's necessary, and it needs to be ongoing. There are several services that offer respite care for caregivers, and an end-of-life doula is another person who can offer care, respite for the caregiver who is in the home. But taking care of ourselves is primary, and you wouldn't think so, but it's number one. And the thing that I mentioned, the program that I mentioned, Authentic Presence, Sally had, or I don't know if it was Sally or maybe Elizabeth, who's already left, and if so, I'm sorry. But there are several programs online. When I started in 2015, there was one. But there's University of Vermont, there is INELDA, Authentic Presence, Compassionate Care is another one, and those are the ones that I think are most visible right now.
Yeah, you mean the training programs?
Yes.
Yeah, there's quite a few out there.
Yeah.
What I'm really glad about is how much more normal the conversation is now than it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago.
Yes.
I think a lot of us are just coming out and normalizing, talking about loss, grief, death, those things that are a part of life that, for some reason, our society has decided that, they're taboo subjects. And then people get blindsided because they're not prepared. So, well.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, come on, guys. There might be some things in the chat, but I'm not seeing the chat.
Well, we could.
Yep.
I did see them as they were.
Let's see.
Am interested in any ways to enhance a legacy project I've been working on for several weeks. Okay. And thank you, Kathleen. And Anna will be talking next month about legacy projects. And there's someone in the waiting room.
So yeah,
Okay.
that'll be a good one to come to.
Anna, is there anything you'd like to say at the moment about legacy projects? And
Just the X there.
yeah, thank you. Good.
No, William and I have had experience creating different types of projects and coming up with whatever's available, whatever's meaningful to you. Obviously, it's capturing your life story, so that's where we start, and you become the author of that. And I think it's so wonderful just to stop here a moment and say how great it is that we're able to join in and start this dialogue, because it's rare. It's hard to find people who want to talk about things that to me are very valuable. And that's why we titled our talk for next month, Life Matters, because it's important and these are important topics. And it's good to have the ability to share, to ask questions, to say, this is how my journey was. Tell me about yours. And we can all share honestly about that. And what we hope to do is have information, forms, different formats, examples, and be able to present it to you so that you can get started on this work of how will it be that you will capture your life experiences and events. And I know I'm working on mine and trying to gather that information and realizing that the time is now to do that. You know, while we have the luxury of time, while we have our mental faculties and we can do these things, that we can meet and have these connections that are so important to us. And I hope that as we continue on our monthly dialogues, that it'll be something that you'll feel more comfortable as you get to know us, to ask questions and to explore. Not that I have any answers, but that I've been in situations and I've had some experiences that I can share. And that's maybe how we'll navigate this as we go along. I'll learn from you and you learn from me, and together we go on.
Yeah.
There was one.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Kathleen.
I'd like to know, you're referring to a class, a different class, because my situation is I've inherited several generations worth of photos. And I am now the family historian. I'm trying to organize probably over 1,000 photos along with the story, but I'm also struggling with how to do it with technology and AI. So I wonder if anybody else has been in that environment.
As myself, the extent of my technology is a PowerPoint in my computer where I know how to insert photos and music and videos and, you know, kind of turn it into a YouTube. That is something that I know how to do. But probably if you come next month, I bet William might know of quite a bit of that kind of thing, right? He does video and this type of thing, and he has a lot of access to that information. So, yeah.
What class is that? I'm sorry, but what class is that?
Oh, well, it's not a class. It's a meeting it's this same meeting next month.
Oh, this same. Okay.
At the seniors, at same time, same Zoom link, same location. Yes. So we're doing a monthly presentation. I'm not sure about November, but we have
October 11th is the next session.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
3
Thank you.
o'clock here.
Specifically about legacy.
And same Zoom number if you're going to attend on Zoom, or please feel free to come.
Could
Okay.
I just make a comment? I think you said you had, what, 500, a whole box of photos that you want to.
Over 1,000.
Okay. If you just want to convert them to digital form, like a JPEG file that you can use, I mean, one way is to scan them, but scanning takes a long time.
They've been scanned. Would you believe it?
Then you've got that.
I had help. I had help with that, and they are
so-
now living in my computer. All
Okay.
1,500 of them.
All right. So all you need to do is put them in a PowerPoint presentation or whatever. So on my timeline, believe it or not, I used Excel file
That's wonderful.
so I could get the columns and stuff the way I wanted. But anyhow, there are lots of different programs. You use a word processor and just import pictures and, type your history as you go along and then put a picture in and keep going.
Well, what I'm doing right now is I just discovered today that I can use my iPhone to dictate the metadata for the
Right.
photos.
Yes.
And I'm hoping, I don't know if anybody has tried one of these other programs. There's a program out there called Milio that I'm hoping will be able to sort these things by keywords or people or whatever, because to go through a whole pile, so to speak, of 1,500 photos is daunting to try to get it into different categories. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping the metadata will do that for me. I sound like I know what I'm talking about with technology, but I don't.
Well, I'm not familiar with that program. One way you could do it is to use a spreadsheet. I mean, you put a number on each of the photos, and then in one column on the spreadsheet, you put that number, and then you put some description of it. And
That's an idea.
and then on the other, you can sort with spreadsheets by columns. So you could alphabetize it so it's like a dictionary, A to Z, or whatever on the titles. You can search for certain words. You can do all that with a spreadsheet. And it's not that hard. You know, Excel does that. There are other spreadsheets too, but
Well, it's daunting.
yeah, it is.
Let's see if there are any other questions.
There was one.
Any other questions?
There was one more.
And there are probably AI programs or more sophisticated programs than that, like you mentioned. But I'm not familiar with that program.
I'm kind of surprised that the senior center doesn't offer a course in something like what I just described, because I think a lot of people are in their retirement, like you had said earlier.
Yeah.
We've got the time, and this is the time to do it while we can still remember.
Yeah.
You know, and I do think, at least I hope, that the family later on down the road will appreciate it, but they're not in a position to help because they don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about my kids. They don't have the time to help me. So I'm here on my own trying to figure out how to best do it.
Right, it's so true. And honestly, I'm afraid some kids aren't interested either so much.
Well, they're not interested now, but we don't know.
But they will be, once we're gone, everybody's going to be like, oh!
Yeah, exactly. I know. I know. Why didn't we? Look, I have those regrets myself
Yes.
that I didn't talk with my parents
Yeah.
more about things. But look at the age I am now. I mean, I've got that kind of wisdom.
Right.
When you're busy working, you got 2 jobs, you got kids, you don't have time to think about it, no less do anything about it.
Yeah, so like you say, we're in that moment now where we have the wherewithal, we're mobile, we have the ability.
That's right.
And it seize the moment. It's sort of that golden time, right?
That's what I'm
So, I mean,
thinking.
that is something I'd love to, I mean, I'm getting more and more excited about wanting to do, and it could just be not a class as such necessarily, but a meeting
Workshop.
like this, like a workshop where we all share whatever our inputs are and our ideas are.
I think that would be great. And I'll tell you the other thing, if we had someone that we could sort of, check in with from time to time just to see what people's progress is, rather, because otherwise, I make a run at it and then I don't do anything and then I walk away and then I think, oh, I need to get back to it. But if I had somebody to be accountable to,
Right.
like there was a weekly or a bi-weekly check-in, then maybe I might be more motivated to do.
Sure, like a buddy system where,
Yeah.
Because also, as my work as a grief specialist is, things come up, like you say, you have regrets, you have sorrows, you have memories, and sometimes that box of picture, we just, don't feel like going into it because of all that, but, it's actually beautiful if we can just go ahead and feel our feelings and, also acknowledge and appreciate those who are still here and all of that kind of thing, so, yeah, that's really good.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of the meeting because I had a doctor's appointment. So what did I miss? I missed the first 20 minutes.
Well, we talk a little bit about what doulas do. What is an end-of-life doula? And what does an end-of-life doula do? And what are the benefits of having an end-of-life doula? We have the Florida Association, and we are members of that group. So, you know, it's kind of a new, in the last 20 years, a new group that's cropped up quite, I think, rapidly, especially through COVID. Past few years, everybody sees the need to be supported around end of life and the issues of death and grief and loss and life change.
Is your scope just on end of life, or is it on just grief? You know,
End of life.
Well, and
it's mostly end of life.
Grief, any grief, but yeah, it's a kind of a broad scope, because end of life could be a very young person, pediatric, you know, cancer. It could be supporting the family, having to figure stuff out. So the different ones of us have different areas of expertise or specific niche in this work that we all feel compelled to do. It's like you're called to do this, you know, it's a calling. It's something that for some reason, things that have happened in our lives has headed us in this direction, and that
You say you have different niches. Could you name some of them?
Some, like Lee here, bedside vigil in the active dying process. I can speak
That's,
for you.
yes,
Uh-huh.
that's my specialty. So.
You know, mine, grief before, during, and after loss. Going back to trauma, childhood traumas, and just a whole array. So I have classes that I teach, and I do one-on-one sessions, but I also do classes.
And you cover, I would imagine, ambiguous loss.
Absolutely, ambiguous loss, yes, is a big one. That would be maybe they're here physically but not of mind, or they're gone, missing in action, or, you know, unknown whether they're still alive or not. There's some very complicated situations. Thank you, Georgiana. So yeah, for myself with the grief, through all the different kinds of loss in my family, it's just given me the inside view on many different kinds of, well, particularly death, but other kinds of losses as well. So that's my.
Did you say you teach?
That's interesting to learn what called us.
Yeah.
In your case, it was just a cluster, an intense cluster of losses. And in my case, I mean, I spent time with my father, and when he was dying, and he asked, "What should I do? What should I do?" He kept on asking that over and over again. And I knew right then that it was my job to help him let go. And so I did talk to him about how he was loved and how it was okay to go. And this was all instinctive. And I think then many years later, this was the foundation then of my calling to be present for those who are at death's door, and to go as far with them as I possibly could. We call it, you know, accompanying the dying. And I did receive training then in what to do before I was, you know, going on intuition. And I felt very gratified to have the strategies and the training, the experience, and a lot of time to reflect ahead of time. So we not only come to this profession for different reasons and with different stories, but we also come to various areas of it. And Shanti has, you know, dived right in with grief work, and others will work, on the advanced planning or on legacy work. And even though we're capable of doing many of the other aspects of end-of-life doula, that is where our heart lies.
And then we have William is a funeral director, the one who's working on this legacy project with Anna next month. So he's getting all the education he can. He's a doula, he's a funeral director, he's working on getting, is it chaplain training?
A videographer.
Videography. He's just a very all-around. He's working on opening a funeral home here in the area, so we're very, excited about that. And we have, green burial. A lot of us really are in favor of the green burial, the conservation burial, because we don't harm the environment, and it's such a beautiful way to preserve land. If you haven't, you should go to Prairie Creek Conservation Cemetery right here.
Yeah.
I'm all signed up for that. I thought I was going to be all about cremation, but unfortunately, cremation monetarily is cheap, but it puts a lot of CO2 into the environment, and so we have the possibility of having a home funeral. Not even having your body go to a funeral home, but I participated in carrying a body of a friend straight to Prairie Creek in 2010, and that was the second person to be buried there. There's a lot people don't know because, we don't talk about these things much. But there is a National Home Funeral Alliance, and their whole work is to educate people about the home funeral.
And that's another important part of our role, is just educating and keeping the conversation going and keeping the conversation in the forefront. A lot of people will not even consciously avoid conversations like this. It really is a threat. And I keep on thinking back to the Middle Ages when it was just all around and people were saying, you're going to die and you better repent, and it was just a part of life. But that certainly has not made its way to the U.S. So education is another important part of our role, even though it may not be our primary mission.
Yeah,
what is your relationship with hospice then? I was wondering.
Well, hospice, I was a volunteer with hospice after I did my doula training, and what I've found with hospice is I would love to see them hire doulas, because I think it's a whole different role than their nurses and their social workers and their doctors. But I haven't seen it yet.
Some hospices, but not in Florida, do have doulas as part of their team. But the tendency is for hospice to see doulas as competition, and it's simply because they don't understand what we do. I'm originally from Ohio, where I took my training, and we did have 2 hospices there that did have doulas on the team, and we also had nurses, hospice nurses, who came to doula training, because it gave them insight into this aspect of need that wasn't being addressed.
Yeah, so I believe there is an end-of-life doula role in the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. I think they have a committee there. So, the more we speak up and speak out and let people know what we're doing, the more we become more of a normal part of the world, too. So, gosh, I think we're at time. We can stay longer, but it's about 4. And, this has just been lovely. I think we had our little quiet, awkward moments, and then we picked it up. And Kathleen, thank you for stepping up and asking that good question, because you got us rolling again.
Well, can I just ask this, because I'm not aware? Is this is the first in a monthly series, and then
Yes.
what is there a curriculum? Is there what is there? What is this?
So we just reached out to the senior center, and they just agreed to put us on once a month. And so what we've done is, we don't know what the November meeting is going to be yet, because there is a previous meeting on that second Wednesday of November. So if they want to collaborate with us, that's fine. We just don't know yet. But we've got Legacy in October, and then the second Wednesday of December, we are thrilled to have Carlos Gonzalez of Prairie Creek Conservation Cemetery. And he's going to give a PowerPoint presentation of the history of, I think, the history of the funeral movement and the cemetery itself. And so yeah, we don't know yet what the next year is going to bring, because we wanted to get your ideas and interest, and then we've got to just kind of, it's not going to be hard for us to set up 12 different topics, that'll be like the whole year.
We can think of several topics, but we like to proceed more from a needs-based, with your telling us what you're
So was ambiguous
interested in.
loss on your list? Ambiguous loss, was it on your list?
Well, I would love to do one on grief and loss, and that's big on my list, Kathleen. We can touch base. I actually have a grief class that I'm starting now online, and it's a self-paced class, and this one's free because it's my first one. You might be interested in that.
I would. How would I get in touch? How would I learn about it?
I put my email in the chat, and I believe you did too. So if you're anyone interested in grief, please, I would love to let you know what I got going on.
I don't think I see it.
Just tell me your email and I'll write it down.
Well, okay.
Kathleen Mason?
Kathleen T. Mason
Okay.
at Yahoo.
Okay, perfect.
If you could send that to me, that would be great. I'd be interested in that.
Okay.
Yeah, the entire chat is not showing up. In some formats you can see it, but
It's
Yeah, I can see the chat.
we're not able to show that.
anyway, so we got you. And I've got, Leon, I've got your email.
Okay.
And
Oh, here's somebody else has left their email in the chat. Do you not see it?
let's see.
Georgiana
I think the
Johnson?
chat will probably save itself, but just in case.
I hope so. I hope, otherwise you're going to lose this lady's address. Georgiana Johnson.
Yes.
Okay.
G. Johns 44 at Cox. Okay.
You got it?
At cox.net.
Yes.
And there was another. Okay. Oh, there's yours. Okay, Shivanti. I see it.
Shantivani. Yep.
Yeah, I got you.
So we are just so happy to meet you, and every single one of us makes a difference. So even if there were just 2 people here, I would be celebrating and very joyful. Yes.
So thanks so much for coming.
Yeah. And we'll leave this open so you can play with the chat a little more. And well, I do like to end meetings with a little round of if anybody would like to share just something they've learned here or that they have received from being here today. I'll start. I just love you all. I'm just so glad to have the input and to hear from you that we have 2 people who are already working on their legacy is a huge blessing to know you're there.
And I feel very grateful to have met all of you and to have spent time with you. It always fills my heart to make connections with new people who are interested in this area of our rich life.
Thank you for presenting that and being there. I will just end by telling you that I know about Prairie Creek. I just went 2 years ago through a very long journey with my mother-in-law, who was 99 when she passed, who had dementia, which is why I was asking about ambiguous loss, and did have the Prairie Creek experience, but found all that on my own. And we were working with hospice, so there's a void. There's a lot there. I mean, they had a chaplain, but the chaplain's so busy.
I know.
Yes.
They all have their little 15 minutes, it seems,
Yes.
You know, a big old hug.
It's not what we needed at that time. We needed someone to guide us through the dying stages and so on and so forth, and didn't really get that. So thank you for offering that to this community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any closing comments?
No, that is just wonderful to be able to join and to be able to share a little bit about what our experiences have been with you, and to allow this free dialogue now, that I think is just really a wonderful thing to have. So I look forward to next month. Thank you.
Thank you.